you walk down, you may fall off a cliff like we just did, and we get that. We're under no illusion that hey, you could 100% right now say I want to jump on command and run my entire business. And in fact, we're not asking you to do that. We're asking you to give us feedback on the value added features that we're adding, experiment with how to get into command, and give us feedback on that because it's a big lab, and we want to focus in on the features and capabilities that move the needle for you guys. But why? Why is command so important? Why is getting our agent base into command? Why putting your offers into command, your opportunities into command, your contacts into command? What makes what moves the needle? It's just another CRM. First the value is you don't have to pay for another CRM system. Okay, so we're going to give you a large scale, very deep, very wide CRM system as we grow this thing out over the coming months, and you won't have to pay for this. I've heard of folks paying for alternative systems, and to the tune of $10,000 a month if they got a big team, and so we want to save you that money. We want to lower your operational cost. So that's kind of the first line value. But there's a almost a hidden value, and Gary talks about it, AI and data. So let's give you as to your folks. Why is that important? And so let's draw that out a little bit.
Yeah, and so to Neil's point, we understand that command's probably not capable of running most businesses start to finish at this point, and we're not trying to rush anyone into command. I'd say, in fact, we're probably encouraging people not to rush into command.
Right.
Really take this slow. There's a lot of layers to this to peel back, guys, and that includes trying to really diagnose your business to make sure you're doing exactly what you want to do in your business, not what you have to do because of the limitations of your current technology.
Right. And so let's talk about AI, and let's even go really basic. I'm going to explain what AI is, because it's a lot of folks look at that, and when I do talks at Google and other places, one of the big things that we talk about is AI right now is a buzzword that's used across every single industry, and it's like vitamins. Everybody thinks they need some vitamins, but you don't really know what it's doing for you. So I just get me some vitamins, and but I'm pretty sure it's good for me, but I'm not sure the value I'm getting out of it. And that's like the industry buzzword right now is I need some AI. I got some data, I need some AI, and it's going to create some value for me. We can take it a step further because we know exactly what that value is going to create for us. But really, all AI is, if you have to go explain AI is a predictive engine. It allows you to make predictions based upon patterns. And let's take a basic pattern, that we all grew up with. So if I see a flame.
So this is Neil's screen now. For those of you guys that are seeing, This is Neil's screen. He's drawing. This is cool.
Right.
We've never done this before.
So if I see a flame, and I'm not good at drawing hands, and I put my hand on the flame, right? That's supposed to be a hand.
Kind of looks like a moose.
Yeah, it does, okay. Right?
Moose hand.
Now it looks like a witch's hand, but it's closer.
That works.
And if I put my hand in the fire, I know, wow, I got burned. My handwriting is terrible. I got burned, and the reason I got burned was it was hot, and it was yellow, and the closer I got, the hotter it gets. So closer, hotter. Right? So there's a pattern right there. So this is and that hurt. Okay? So this is a pattern we learn. And so when we go and look at let's do this.
I'm just really fascinated by the drawing thing. I'm an Apple guy, and this is a giant Surface thing, so I don't know how to use it as well as Neil does.
So now when you look at a stove, and you see that, and you think, wow, as I'm getting closer to the stove, it's getting hotter. So now what happens? Well, I'm checking this box right here. So now I'm saying, hey, that might hurt. So I applied my own intelligence to say, hey, I touched the flame. This pattern meant it's going to hurt. So now on a stove, hey, I've got a pattern match here. It's not yellow, but the closer I get, the hotter it's getting. I probably shouldn't touch it. So now I know not to touch it. So because I'm going to get hurt. And then I add, hey, you know what? Red. Let's add that to the pattern. So now I'm building up the pattern of intelligence that, hey, yellow, red means hot, right? So now let me give you an experience. So I know kind of growing up all the things I shouldn't touch because they're probably going to be hot. Literally, gosh, 2 years ago, I was in somebody's backyard and they had an outdoor kitchen. And in that outdoor kitchen, they had a brown countertop that was granite. Now, you guys are in real estate, and I did not know this, but if you have an outdoor granite countertop in an outdoor kitchen, that thing gets damn hot in the summer. All right, and I put my arms on that, and I got burned. I got so burned because that was so hot. Well, guess what? It didn't check any of the boxes for me in my pattern of knowing when I was going to get burned, because it was never in my experience to know, hey, it's not yellow, it's not red, and it didn't feel hot, didn't look hot, and even as I got closer, it didn't get hotter. Is just when I put my hands or my arms on it, I got burned. That wasn't in my experience set. But the dude's house I was at, well, guess what? It was in his pattern because he got burned after he installed it. He could have told me to add that to my experience set, but he didn't, right? And if he had, then I would have added that to, hey, granite outside sucks because it hurts. And so that would have been, adding to my collective knowledge. So now let's talk about that set. So if I'm an agent, change colors here. I want that to be red.
Jay, yes, Jay, this is not a cheap Surface tablet.
Yeah.
He commented on the price there. I don't know how much they are, but I know they're not cheap.
They're not cheap. So if I'm an agent and I have all my data inside of my own app, and whether I'm using spreadsheets or I'm using an app that I built up myself to run my business, all my experiences, all the patterns that I understand, that I know about, are all inside my brain. And all the inferences I can make, a pattern matches, like, hey, it's red, I'm approaching it, it's hot, therefore don't do it. They're all limited to my one brain, my experience set, and that's it. Okay? When I use...
Guys, I think about this from the first thing that came to mind from what I think Neil's about to articulate here is things like, I know that a house in this neighborhood at this price point at this time of year is likely to be very competitive. I don't have that written down anywhere, right? That's in my brain.
Right.
And I also have an idea that, well, I've helped more clients with a house like this in the past. And in my experience, if I go X percentage over the list price and do these three things to the contract, I'm more likely to win than lose.
Exactly. Those are types of patterns that you guys know about. And if it was just one person with that pattern, those inferences you can make, the pattern set is very small. However, if inside of Keller Cloud, don't tell Gary I misspelled Keller, but there it is. If we're all using the same tools, well, guess what? All that data gets processed by one AI system, and all the patterns of that data gets processed. And so the more people that join Keller Cloud, the more people using it, the brain gets bigger. Because remember, AI is all about processing data and figuring out patterns. And so the more people we put on the same brain, the more patterns we have, the more insights. The brain gets bigger, and the more insights we get back out that we share from. And so it makes us all smarter. Now, if I were using a tool that came from a third-party vendor, like, I don't want to pick on anybody, but say I'm using Sync as a tool. Well, they're doing the same thing. Sync is collecting data from all the agents. And let's draw a new agent, and let's make him blue. So if one of our agents was not using our Keller Cloud and not using Command, and they were using Sync, well, guess what they're doing? They're helping Sync's brain. Let me redraw that. brain.
Fascinated with this drawing thing still.
They're making Sync's brain bigger. And guess what happened there? You're going to get insights from Sync, great, but do you have unfair advantage? No. You have the same advantage of the folks that wear blue jackets. So the playing field got leveled at that point. So if you use a third-party system, you're helping create insights and grow a brain for anybody else to use. This is why it's so important if you want to create unfair advantage with our size, because we have so many agents. Remember, we've got over 160,000 agents in North America alone growing the Keller Cloud brain, with the potential to grow the Keller Cloud brain, to create those patterns, to create those inferences, so that we can create unfair advantage over folks that are using third-party software, where the playing field becomes level.
And so we keep that in-house.
We keep it all in-house, and the bigger we grow this brain, the smaller this will be in relation, and the more advantage you have over these guys using a third-party piece of software. Or remember, is there gold in here? That's gold enough. The folks in gold contributing to this brain over here. We want unfair advantage. We need to collect our data, create those patterns of inferences and intelligence that we're all using. Now, this is the same reason why if I'm joining a boutique agency right now, I'd be afraid, because that boutique agency, they could copy our entire, let's go to a different color, they could copy every single technology that we have inside of Keller Cloud, but their brain may only grow as big as the 20-odd people they have in their boutique agency, and they'll only get the patterns back from those 20 people. And somebody may never know that granite in a backyard kitchen sucks.
So that's a really interesting point. So I think I'm going to try and articulate this to dumb agent brain, small brain here. By using Keller Cloud and plugging your information in and labbing this with us, in theory, I'm getting not only all the things I've ever been burned by, but all of the things that every agent inside of KW has ever been burned by, and then I know all that information.
That's exactly right. That's what I mean by inferences and insights. The more patterns that we're able to actually analyze. We're not even asking for the patterns. What we're asking for is the data, so that we can use our AI engines to figure out what the patterns are and create the predictions of when you're going to get burned. And so we can create all kinds of predictions and give them back to you as an agent. And that's the whole reason why Gary said, hey, data is our moat, our wall, our advantage, our unfair advantage, because we have more agents than anybody else. We can collect more data than anybody else. And right now, a lot of data is just falling on the floor. We call it data exhaust because it falls on the floor and nobody does anything with it. So your interactions with the folks that you give to individualized IDX sites, their interactions with those sites, that's a piece of data that we want to collect and see if there's a pattern in there, like the way that we're positioning the draw function. Should it be a hand? Should it be a pencil? What gives us more engagement? We'll analyze all of that and make that functionality better for everybody else. If you were a part of a 20-person team and that's all you had, there's a limit to the number of insights you could gain because there's just not enough data. Our advantage is we already have volume. We already have scale in the number of folks we have, and that's what makes it exciting. Is we have more data than anybody else for us to analyze and create these patterns and create the advantage that we're creating back out to the agent. That's why we should have everybody on command. That's why we have an ability to create an unfair advantage over anybody else, instead of the folks that are using third-party products that are creating a level playing field, and they'll have to just be better salespeople than anybody else, and better lead gen people than anybody else, and why we'll win against these little boutiques who will never have the scale that they need to in order to compete in an AI world. And believe it or not, everything's going into some form of an AI world. You can look at what's happening inside of your computer right now, inside of Microsoft Office. Office is analyzing your emails and figuring out, hey, it looks like someone gave you an action item, or you gave someone an action item, or you guys talked about a meeting. would you like me to schedule a meeting, or would you like me to take that task down and put it into my system? The way they get that is everybody using Office, they figured out through everybody using Office what the pattern was for an action item, what the pattern was for a discussion around a meeting, and they're using that to create that new feature. That's the same thing that we want to do.
So would it be fair to say then, Neil, given that we are the largest real estate company in the world, that it's very improbable that someone could ever have a bigger brain than us?
That's exactly right. That's what Gary saw, and this is what's so refreshing. And people ask me when I go and talk at the different functions I talk out, and these are not real estate functions; they're industry functions. Like I gave a talk at Google's AI conference, and they asked me, "It's like how did you get the funding to do something more broad based like this?" And I said, "You know what? It was really easy. One, we're a privately held company with deep pockets, with a founder that already foresaw this multiple years ago. He saw this a decade ago and said, "Hey, data is going to be key, and I'm going to invest in this." He's been investing in the data side of this with Win more, and now as we move to Cloud more. But he also saw that AI was the way that we were going to create advantage and an unfair advantage and a moat around Keller Williams going forward. And so hopefully this gives you a way of talking about not only the foresight that Gary had, but also a way of explaining why data is important, why we're building Command, and what you can do with it. And so we went abstract here, but a quick example. You gave some examples. Another one would be that, and this is one we're working on, is at the time we write an offer. When you write up that offer, we can look at all the other patterns that match that offer, like type market, like type listing, offers that were declined, offers that were accepted, and tell you, hey, based upon our predictive models of the patterns we have from everybody using the system, whether this offer has a 30% chance of being accepted or a 80% chance of being accepted. Or if you tweak this 30% chance of being accepted offer with these few tweaks, we can move it to 80%, and therefore you have a conversation with your buyer around what type of offer to build and why you're the expert in this market, and your recommendations to make sure they actually win that bid for the home. And so that's why this is so important, and that's why Command, that's why data, and that's why we're building everything we can into Command, and we're building it in stripes. And yes, I know we fall off cliffs and a functionality, but we're going to quickly fill those, build bridges, where those cliffs are, those edges are, and just expand and expand and expand. Through that expansion, more and more agents will find Command usable for their business. They'll move in. We'll start collecting that data, and then continue to add functionality. More agents move in, and our brains just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you'll start seeing, if you saw my release notes, and I know you did because you got this link, that our Smarter initiative starts to kick off as we get data. As we get more and more data, I can do more things. And I said I meant we can do more things with that data and start making every screen inside of Command smarter, inside of Connect smarter, inside of our individualized IDX site smarter, inside of our consumer experience, make that smarter.
So we've got 4 minutes left, guys. Those that are in the room with us, raise your digital hand if you have a question. We can take a few questions here. I'd love to take them live from people. I've also got one really good one here that I want to cover. If we don't cover it here, I'll definitely cover it at 4 o'clock. We'll move some of these questions into our QA session. Spencer, go ahead.
Hey, Neil, quick question. Permission to go super tech?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So in contacts, when you look at the timeline and it pulls in